Let's turn to political and economic affairs commentator Einar Tangen. Einar, Nathan had a real nice breakdown on the year for us, but you watch this relationship very closely. Give us your highs and lows as you see it from 2021.
Well, obviously the lows were, the trade tensions that were pushed, and also the political ones, especially involving Taiwan, Xinjiang, all of the negative blacklists, etc., almost daily attacks on China. There's all sorts of legislation that's been pushed forward, basically saying they will not allow American companies to use Xinjiang cotton unless they can prove that it wasn't done by forced labor. The highlights, and there weren't that many of them, were of course, the summit. That was very, very important. Unfortunately, it did not result in a lessening of the kind of rhetoric that had been going on. But very importantly, there was statements by the USTR and also by Blinken indicating that there's an expectation that China is not going to change. And I think that's been a long time coming. Most administrations have held on to this view that constant pressure will force China to adopt some sort of other political reality. In terms of ideology, I think China is kind of pushing back very clearly. They're talking about the quality of their representative democracy in contrast to what's going on in the United States.
Oh, you mentioned the word pressure. Nathan talked about the easing of tariffs, and I think about pressure because during the Trump administration, we spoke to a lot of soybean farmers in the Midwest who were grousing about how they had cultivated this customer for years, had these great relationships with China, all of that severed. And I know that the business community's been kind of chomping at the bit to see a lessening of the tensions between these two countries. Is that going to have much of an impact? And what would you like to see moving forward that might signal a thaw in the relations?
Well, obviously, the 8 largest business groups representing the majority of large and small businesses across the United States have written a letter to Biden saying, it's time to ease up on these tensions and get back to business. Obviously, the U.S. is going to have some issues recovering, especially small, medium-sized enterprises and things like this. But with the midterm elections next year, unfortunately, I don't see a lot of let up. You're going to see a lot of heated rhetoric coming out on both sides, Republican, Democrat, each trying to outdo each other on being tough on China and how China's the problem, not the social and political divisions within the U.S. There's also this issue of the phase 1. Now that's coming to a close as we speak, and there is nothing out there. There have been obviously talks in the background, but it's going to be interesting to see how that is handled.
It's interesting, obviously, COVID is still an impediment in many ways, but, as you look back on this relationship, we've seen the Sunnyland Summit, President Xi and Obama meeting in Southern California. We've seen Xi traveling to Mar-a-Lago to meet with Trump. Do you see any chance that these two leaders might have a face-to-face meeting in 2022? And also, as you mentioned, the midterms, I think, likely throwing a wrench in all of that. But would it make much of a difference, do you think?
Well, I actually believe that person-to-person diplomacy does make a lot of difference, but a lot of it's going to depend on how secure Biden feels. Remember, he's been extremely timid. He has not moved off the dime in terms of Donald Trump's policies. And if for these two to meet, I don't think it would be an official one, more likely on the sidelines of something. But that on the Chinese side, that depends on the COVID-19 being tamed. Xi Jinping has not left China during this period out of, trying to show that you should actually walk the way you preach. He's saying that it is a danger. China has a zero policy, and it's been very, very effective. So these are the impediments to a face-to-face meeting, but I do believe they need to get back. There has to be some way, not only that these leaders get back in touch, but also ordinary people and business people, because it's been a long, long time, and it's easy to believe bad things that are said when you don't actually see anybody.
And this thin window of operation where there might be some cooperation, climate change seems to be the entry point there. Do you see much movement there? Because both of these countries, Biden obviously very interested in climate change, China making so many moves. Do you see some areas there where we might see continued cooperation?
Once again, on the U.S. side, it's all depends on the politics. China is instituting a move where they're going to attach a carbon footprint to each article that they're exporting. I mean, because right now the situation is Europe and America are claiming that they have reduced their carbon footprint, and it's everybody else who's lagging behind. And but when the truth is, both U.S. and EU are ordering goods from all over the world, causing that increased climate carbon footprint. So I think there's going to be a move to, be a little bit more truthful about this. I think there are opportunities at COP26 and G20 which were missed. Obviously, there's 97 million more people who are food insecure just over this last year. That is probably going to continue with the effects of COVID-19. These are areas where it's not a question of do you want to cooperate? You have to, because these are, the instability that be caused by people who are food insecure could be devastating to the world economy. It's ironic that $777 billion worth of defense spending was passed with nary much except token opposition. But for some reason, $40 billion, which would be the price tag of inoculating everybody in the world, cannot be found.
Einar, always a pleasure talking to you. Happy New Year in advance.